Hi, what I want to do is basically just create some nice, short, simple revision and recap videos for you guys, going over the bits and pieces that we've been covering and just allowing you now to look at that material again when you're at home. So we're going to look at medieval medical knowledge, and this really is, from the start, this is looking as though you've not looked at any of this before. And what we're going to do is look at natural and supernatural approaches to medicine, medieval doctors, we're going to look at the four humours, Galen and Hippocrates, and then an exam question, which is going to be an examining significance type of question. Okay, so let's start going through it. Now, the first one to think about is approaches to medicine in medieval times, and they break down into two key areas. You've got your natural approaches to medicine and your supernatural approaches, and you can see a table in front of you. I've only given you two examples for each. There are more, but I'm taking the view now that this is a revision, this is recap, or playing catch up if you're slightly behind. I don't want to overload you, so I'm deliberately only giving you a couple. There is more out there. So if we look at natural, we're talking about plants, we're talking about remedies, we're talking about what doctors would prescribe. Okay, quite often go into a place called an apothecary, and they would mix up herbs and remedies, and you would either drink them, you would rub them on your body. Okay. The other thing that we've got is burning herbs, creating a smell, or perhaps using pulses, flowers, to get rid of the rotten smell of what's around you. And the whole idea behind this is that in medieval times, people believed you were ill due to bad smells, miasma theory, and therefore by having something that smelt nice, you'd get rid of the bad smell, therefore you'd get rid of the illness. So that's natural remedies. I'm then going to move on to supernatural. Now, the main one to think about when we're talking about supernatural remedies is praying. This idea that in medieval times, people believe that you are ill because you have sinned and God has made you ill as a punishment, or God has blighted that community, for example, with the Black Death, because they have sinned. And therefore the way to remove the illness, to cure yourself or cure the community, is to pray, or to pray for a saint or something like that, to go to church and seek a cure, or to go to a monastery and seek a cure. Now, the church believed that it was not right to seek a cure using a doctor. You had to let the illness go through its course. If you tried to cure yourself using another way, you were going against God's will. And then the other supernatural method that I'm going to talk about very quickly is this idea of astrology. Star signs, Taurus, Libra, Sagittarius, all of these star signs based on where the planets are. And in medieval times, doctors and other people would believe you could fall ill depending of the position of the planets and the stars in the sky. So if they're in a certain part of the sky, lined up in a certain way, that was more likely to cause illness. So we've looked at the reasons why you would become ill, or what people believed would make you ill in medieval times. So let's now look at the medieval doctor. Now, the medieval doctor is following a system known as clinical observation. Okay, it is based on ancient Greek methods. So that means that the doctor would observe you, perhaps take your pulse and look at your urine. And based on those, the doctor would then determine what is wrong with you. When I say look at your urine, they would look at it, they would hold it up in a glass against the light to determine what colour it is. They might smell it, and dare I say, they might even taste it. And it was the use of urine, pulse, and observation to determine how ill you were and what was wrong with you. And the image that you can see on the PowerPoint is known as a urine wheel. And you can see around the edges the different colours of urine, and then these would mean different things on what the doctor was prescribing. So the doctor is using a theory, the theory of the four humours. And the theory of the four humours goes back to ancient Greek times and Hippocrates and Galen. And it's the idea of what's known as the theory of opposites. So if you have a look at the PowerPoint in front of you, you've got hot opposite cold, dry opposite wet. And then we've got these four humours. yellow bile, black bile, phlegm and blood. Each of those is associated with one of the ancient elements of fire, earth, water and air. And the doctor's role was to keep these in balance. So the idea being that if you were too hot and if you had a fever, then they had to try and cool you down. Maybe you had too much blood and they would bleed you, something like that. And it was the four humours that essentially is the bedrock of medical knowledge all the way through medieval times. So let's have a look at who gives us this idea of the four humours. And it's Hippocrates. He's a Greek doctor. He's born, as you can see, 460 BC. And his main contribution is clinical observation. And that is still used by doctors today. So that's significant. Hippocrates is also responsible for the four humours, which we looked at in the previous slide. He gives us this idea. And finally, Hippocrates today is known for the Hippocratic Oath. It's an oath that all doctors take today, where they promise not to use their skills to cause harm and to be ethical in what they do as doctors. So you've got some good examples of significance here for Hippocrates. We've got clinical observation, we've got the four humours, we've got the Hippocratic Oath. So following on from Hippocrates, you've got Galen. Now Galen comes quite a while after. He's coming just after, he's around after the time of Christ, just after that, and he's in Rome. Now Galen has studied the work of Hippocrates, and he's not challenging it. He's building on it slightly, okay. He's worked as a doctor for gladiators, so he's getting a chance to see the inside of human bodies. He's getting a chance to treat wounds, but he's not really dissecting humans. He's learning about the organs. He's learning about how a body is constructed, anatomy, by dissecting animals. Now there's going to be a number of issues here because there aren't going to be the same layout inside a body from a pig as there is to a human, from a lizard to a human, and from an ape to a human. So some of his findings are going to be wrong, but they cannot be challenged because Galen is not dissecting humans. He's dissecting animals, and the church supports this. The church will not allow people to dissect humans. Therefore, a lot of knowledge is based on Galen's work, and he's quite significant. So Galen, in his significance, has studied Hippocrates. He's a doctor to gladiators. This is allowing him to see wounds. This is allowing him to develop his treatments, and he's dissecting animals to learn about anatomy. Okay, so there we go. Now, if we quickly look at an exam type question then, and here you can see it. Explain the significance of Hippocrates and Galen to the development of medicine. It's an 8-mark question. So an 8-mark question, timing wise, you need to plan to answer that in 10 minutes and you should be writing 2 paragraphs. Don't forget, every 4 marks equals 5 minutes and 1 paragraph. So 8 marks is 10 minutes, 2 paragraphs. Let's have a look at how that would be marked. And as all answers, it's in levels initially, and it's levels 1 through to 4. And you can see in front of you what distinguishes between those levels. Okay, so press pause, take a look at this. But the key thing you need to include in your answers is factual knowledge, and it's detailed factual knowledge. That's what's taking you up to level 3 and 5 and 6 marks. So to really do well on this question, we need to be giving 2 detailed explanations of significance, with the answer demonstrating specific knowledge and understanding. So this is where it's important. You've got to give these detailed facts. You've got to progress from a developed explanation of significance by explaining the relationship between 2 aspects of significance, linking them over time or linking them in terms of understanding. So what does that look like? So finally, let's have a look at what an answer would look like for this question. And again, give you a chance to pause it, give you a chance to have a look at it, and if you want, copy it down so you've got it in your notes. But you can see how Hippocrates, how you can see how the student has answered these, ensuring that they have said Hippocrates and Galen were significant because. It's really important we include that in there. And also, the work of Hippocrates and Galen was significant. If we don't include that in, we're really going to be struggling. We've got to make sure we highlight that in the answer. So when we're answering this question, make sure we include the words Hippocrates and Galen were significant. Was significant. It might be about somebody else. It might be about Vesalius. Vesalius was significant because. Public health was significant because. Make sure you include those words. So there it is. That's the very start of looking at medicine, 1100 through to present day, and a very quick overview of medieval medicine. Thanks very much.